You're not crying, you're not moving, but somehow your chest aches like you've been hit. All it took was a photo, a sound, a name, and suddenly your brain reacts as if you're in real danger. This is heartbreak, a neurological event firing pain circuits, flooding you with stress hormones, hijacking your attention. Welcome to Neuro Academy. Tonight we solve the questions: why does losing someone feel like a threat to survival? Why does love leave a scar that even time can't erase? But most of all, why can't you just forget them, no matter how hard you try? You're not weak for feeling this. You're wired to, and what feels like dying might just be the brain reorganizing itself to survive. To make sure this knowledge stays with you, I've prepared a free guide with the key insights from tonight's video. You'll find it in the description, like a map you can return to whenever you need it. Let's begin with why heartbreak feels like dying. You are standing in a quiet room, alone, and a single memory drifts uninvited. It is not just a thought, it lands like a pebble in a still pond, sending ripples through your body. You feel it first as a tightness in your chest, a subtle ache that seems to radiate outward, brushing your shoulders, your throat, even the tip of your fingers. It is a memory of a name, a voice, a smile, something that once felt safe, warm, inevitable, and now, in its absence, your body reacts as if you have been struck. Pause here and imagine that weight, not metaphorically, but physically. Your heart races a fraction too fast. Your breath shortens without your conscious command, and a knot forms low in your stomach. This is not just poetic language, it is your body's honest translation of emotional rupture. Scientists have long observed that social pain activates many of the same neural pathways as physical pain. Areas like the anterior cingulate cortex, which process the sting of a scraped knee, also respond when someone you love disappears from your life. Your body, in other words, interprets absence as threat. To picture it differently, consider your body as a finely tuned instrument, capable of registering signals that are both subtle and intense. When a memory strikes, it plucks a string you didn't know existed. The vibration is felt not only in your chest, but across a network of muscles and organs, a silent orchestra playing a melody of longing. The brain, in its quiet efficiency, does not distinguish whether the source is physical or emotional. The sensation registers first, before reason has time to weigh in, before words can describe it. In that room, your mind begins its work. The memory is replayed, sometimes fragmented, sometimes complete. The curve of a smile, the timbre of a laugh, the way a hand fit naturally in yours, all of it flashes through your awareness. Each fragment triggers a pulse in the neural circuits, designed to help you notice danger, to react to loss. These circuits, deeply embedded, were honed over millennia. For our ancestors, social disconnection could threaten survival. Being cast out from the group meant exposure to predators, scarcity of food, and the very real risk of death. The brain, therefore, treats relational loss with the urgency of physical threat. But the experience is more than simple alarm. It is a choreography of sensation and anticipation. Your chest tightens not merely because of remembered pain, but because your brain expects consequences: isolation, rejection, perhaps even permanent absence. The thalamus acts as a relay station, collecting the raw sensory input, the rapid heartbeat, the shallow breathing, and sending it to the amygdala, your ancient alarm system. The amygdala, in turn, intensifies the perception of threat, flooding your bloodstream with stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. You are, in those moments, physiologically primed for fight or flight, even though the threat is entirely internal, entirely imagined. Now, imagine this memory as a small spark landing on dry leaves. The initial spark is the mental image, the smell, the sound. The dry leaves are the emotional vulnerabilities you carry, the residues of attachment and expectation. Your body reacts automatically, feeding the spark, allowing it to flicker across your nervous system. Every heartbeat, every intake of breath fans the flame. You are experiencing in real time a cascade of reactions designed to keep you alive, yet all in response to something that exists only in memory. And it is not only the body that remembers. Your mind is a layered landscape. One layer holds sensory impressions, the softness of a hand, the warmth of a smile. Another layer holds emotional context, the comfort, the security, the sense of being known. When you recall the memory, these layers resonate together, producing a composite experience that is both physical and emotional. This is why heartbreak is often described as a pain that feels like dying. Your body does not lie, it experiences the absence as it would a direct threat to survival. In this intricate process, the brain's pattern recognition systems play a subtle but crucial role. Even a fragmentary stimulus, a photograph, a song, a phrase, can reawaken the full memory, triggering the cascade once more. The hippocampus, your brain's archivist, draws associations, linking the memory to time, place, and context. Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex, usually your executive center for rational thought, struggles to mediate, attempting to suppress the alarm even as the circuits of pain and attachment continue their dance. It is a delicate tug-of-war between memory, emotion, and reason, and yet there is something profound in this experience. This body-memory interface is not just a source of suffering, it is a testament to the depth of human connection. The intensity with which your system reacts speaks to the significance of what was lost, the depth of attachment and trust. Every pulse, every ache is a measure of investment, the neural footprint of caring deeply. Though it is painful, it is also an affirmation that the connections you form are meaningful, that your mind and body are wired to recognize value and threat with remarkable precision. As you sit with this sensation, notice the way attention narrows. Thoughts loop, often uncontrollably, returning to the memory again and again. Your body follows suit, the same muscles tense, the same breath pattern repeats. In neuroscience, this is sometimes called the pain loop, a recurring cycle of activation between memory, emotion, and bodily sensation. It is a system built for survival, for noticing loss, for protecting oneself, but it also explains why a single memory can feel as immediate and intense as a physical blow. And here is the quiet mystery that begins to emerge. While your body experiences this memory as threat, your mind is simultaneously capable of reflection. You can observe the sensation, note its patterns, and begin to recognize the machinery behind it. The weight in your chest, the flutter in your gut, the tightness in your throat. They are all signals, messages from a system designed to keep you attuned, alert, alive. Understanding them does not erase the pain, but it begins to transform it from something chaotic into something intelligible. And yet, despite this understanding, there remains a lingering question. Why does the brain interpret absence as threat so intensely? Why does the loss of a person trigger the same circuits that fire when we are physically endangered? And what hidden systems sustain this cascade, keeping memories alive and attention focused, sometimes for days, weeks, or months after the initial heartbreak? It is here, at this intersection of memory, body, and brain, that the real story of heartbreak begins. A story written in neurons, hormones, and subtle bodily signals. A story that explains why the ache of loss can feel as primal and urgent as a threat to life itself. And as we turn the page to understand the brain's survival mechanisms, you may begin to see that what feels like dying is in fact your system preparing for something far more profound. The slow, intricate work of survival and adaptation. The moment a memory strikes, your brain reacts as though it is facing danger, and in many ways it is. This is not metaphorical. Your neural circuits are wired to prioritize survival above all else. Beneath the surface of your conscious awareness, a small almond-shaped region deep within your brain called the amygdala ignites like a sentinel on high alert. It scans the environment, evaluates threats, and mobilizes the body's defenses. When heartbreak hits, the amygdala treats the absence of a loved one as if a predator has appeared in the room. Cortisol, your body's primary stress hormone, surges. Heart rate rises, muscles tense, Even digestion slows. The body prepares itself for a fight or flight scenario, even though there is nothing external to confront. Picture it as standing in a dimly lit forest, your senses sharpened, every rustle of leaves amplified. Only now the rustle is the thought of that person who is no longer there. The amygdala perceives the threat, but it cannot distinguish between a physical predator and the emotional void left by loss. And just like a forest hunter waiting to strike, your body waits, primed and reactive, until it can make sense of the absence. Neuroscientists have observed this pattern vividly in imaging studies. People experiencing social rejection exhibit the same neural activation patterns as those enduring physical pain. The dorsal anterior cingulate cortex, a region intimately tied to both physical and emotional suffering, lights up. Signals that normally encode harm to the body are now encoding harm to your social world. The line between physical injury and emotional wound blurs. You may clutch your chest or find your stomach tightening. It is the body registering social loss in the language it knows best, pain. Your body, in a sense, is remembering what survival once demanded. In ancient human societies, being cut off from the tribe was life-threatening. The loss of connection could mean exposure to the elements, lack of food, even death from predators. Your neural architecture, shaped over countless generations, has retained this ancient logic. Social threat is survival threat. Every signal of rejection, every pang of loneliness is interpreted as a danger to life itself. Heartbreak, therefore, is not just emotional, it is physiological, a deeply embedded alarm system, warning you of potential existential risk. And yet, the alarm is not indiscriminate. The amygdala communicates with other regions of the brain that contextualize the signal. The prefrontal cortex, your center for reasoning and planning, attempts to weigh the threat. It asks quietly, is this really dangerous? But it is often overpowered by the intensity of the signal. Meanwhile, the hippocampus catalogues the memory, tying together details of the loss, the setting, the images, the conversations, ensuring that the information is stored for future survival use. Your brain is, in real time, constructing a record, and the more vivid the record, the more intense the body's response becomes. Consider the body as a theatre where the mind scripts a play, but the body performs it with full commitment. The amygdala directs the actors. Heart, lungs, stomach, muscles, hormones, all responding to cues. Cortisol floods the system, heightening alertness, while adrenaline primes the muscles. Even your senses sharpen. Every sound or movement may trigger a subtle startle. Your brain, in these moments, is telling you, pay attention, this is important, you must respond. What it cannot tell you is that the threat is abstract, internal, a phantom of memory and longing. And the story deepens when we realize that the stress response itself shapes the experience of heartbreak. High cortisol levels affect memory consolidation, mood regulation, and even perception of time. Minutes stretch into hours. Emotional waves feel unending. Sleep may become restless, punctuated by vivid dreams or sudden awakenings. The body, still primed as if danger were present, struggles to relax. Even small reminders, a song, a scent, a phrase, rekindle the ancient alarm, causing the cascade to begin again. The brain is locked into survival mode, replaying scenarios, testing outcomes, and searching for a solution to a problem that has no immediate external answer. But there is also a hidden elegance in this process. By activating these circuits, the brain forces attention and focus, compelling you to process the loss. This heightened awareness is a form of adaptation. Your neural system is guiding you through grief, urging reflection, learning, and eventually recalibration. Though painful, the response is not arbitrary. It is your body's deeply honed mechanism for navigating separation. Survival, after all, is not only about escaping predators. It is also about navigating the loss of crucial social bonds and finding a way to thrive again. And so as the amygdala continues its quiet vigil and cortisol courses through your veins, the question emerges, What keeps this system engaged long after the initial shock? Why does the body's response to loss often outlast reason or conscious intent? The answer lies in a network of circuits that intertwine attention, reward, and social bonding, systems that we will explore in the next section. Here, the brain begins a process that explains why heartbreak feels as urgent and real as the most visceral threats, and why, even in absence, the body refuses to be silent. The pain you feel in your chest, the heaviness in your limbs, is not merely poetic, it is neurochemical reality. Imagine your body as a finely tuned orchestra, each section playing a different instrument, yet perfectly synchronized. When heartbreak strikes, the conductor signals the same sections that respond to physical injury. The anterior cingulate cortex, which tracks the unpleasantness of a scrape or a burn, lights up in harmony with the insula, which encodes internal body states. You are feeling pain, and yet the source is social, abstract, relational. Your brain does not distinguish between the two. It registers threat in the language it knows, sensation. Visualize the pain differently. Imagine a fire slowly spreading across a wooden floor. The first sparks are the memory, the image, the text, or the fleeting thought. Your neurons, like kindling, respond to each spark. They send signals through pathways honed to detect harm, stimulating regions of the brain that have evolved to protect survival. Each heartbeat, each breath is amplified. Muscles tense, the stomach tightens. Even your skin may feel sensitive, as if your entire body has learned to embody absence. Pain is no longer metaphorical. It has become tangible, palpable, alive. And then there are the neurotransmitters. Dopamine, the messenger of reward and craving, surges and withdraws in erratic waves. Oxytocin, once secreted in moments of connection and intimacy, plummets with absence. Your nervous system, trained by evolution, interprets these fluctuations as alarm signals. You experience a withdrawal akin to substance abstinence, your body craving the presence of the loved one in ways that mimic addiction. Every text you read, every photograph you see, reactivates the release circuits, creating peaks of longing and tension. These are not imagined responses. They are biologically grounded, encoded in molecules and receptors. Consider for a moment that your brain operates like a dynamic feedback loop. The amygdala signals danger. The anterior cingulate amplifies distress. The prefrontal cortex struggles to make sense of the chaos. Meanwhile, dopamine circuits push you to seek what is missing, reinforcing memory traces. Each recall, each emotional wave, strengthens the connection, making the absence feel immediate and unavoidable. This is why heartbreak often seems inescapable, why one thought can spiral into hours of ruminative pain, why even brief encounters with reminders can provoke a visceral response. From a sensory standpoint, the overlap is striking. Researchers studying social rejection have observed that brain's pain circuits, typically reserved for physical injury, are activated by rejection, humiliation, or betrayal. The sting in your chest is mirrored by real neuronal firing. It is a survival mechanism. Historically, losing social bonds could mean death, starvation, or vulnerability. The neural wiring is clear. Social pain must be treated with the same urgency as physical threat. Your body, in essence, is trying to keep you alive by making absence unforgettable. And yet, the experience is paradoxically reflective. The same systems that heighten distress also sharpen attention and memory. You are acutely aware of the details of interactions, the tone of voice, the subtle expressions, the timing of conversations. Each micro detail is recorded with heightened salience, stored in a network designed to warn against future harm and to maintain bonds. It is the mind's way of saying, notice, learn, adapt. The overlap of physical and social pain is in essence an evolutionary strategy, a way of preserving relationships critical to survival. It is also here that the philosophical dimension becomes tangible. The brain's insistence on translating loss into physical sensation reminds us of the inseparability of mind and body. Emotional suffering is not ephemeral, it is embodied. Your chest tightens, your stomach churns, and your muscles tense, not out of whimsy, but because your biology has encoded care as survival. The intensity of your response is a testament to the importance of the bond, the depth of connection, the human need for attachment. Every pulse of pain is proof of investment, of history, of care. And there is a subtle beauty in this complexity. The overlap between physical and social pain means that the body itself can serve as a teacher. It guides attention, sharpens awareness, and eventually prepares the system for adaptation. Though initially overwhelming, these circuits, when understood, offer insight into how deeply humans are wired for connection, how seriously the body takes emotional threats, and how the mind negotiates the tension between memory, attachment, and survival. Yet, even with this understanding, a question lingers. How does the brain's reward system maintain the pull toward the absent person, even when the body is flooded with stress signals? Why do the same circuits that protect survival simultaneously keep us tethered to loss, craving what is no longer present? The answer lies in the intricate dance of dopamine and oxytocin, addiction-like craving, and the loops that bind attention to desire. And as we explore this in the next section, you will begin to see why heartbreak resembles, in profound ways, the withdrawal experienced in physical addiction. Imagine the body as a finely tuned chemical laboratory, each reaction precise, each signal carrying meaning. In heartbreak, the laboratory is in overdrive. Dopamine, the molecule of desire, pulses through your neural circuits, marking the presence of reward and expectation. When the loved one is absent, those pulses falter. Your brain, trained to anticipate reward, experiences the lack as deficiency, as an alarm, signaling that something crucial is missing. This is not metaphor. The circuits involved are the same ones that light up in drug addiction, the same ones that drive compulsive behaviors and cravings. The brain, in essence, treats emotional loss like substance withdrawal. Picture it, a loop of anticipation and disappointment, each thought of the person igniting brief spikes of dopamine, followed by crashes that deepen longing. You check your phone, a message isn't there, the spike collapses. Hours later, a social media post appears, fleeting and tantalizing. Another spike, another collapse. Your neural reward system is riding waves, surfed by memory and desire, and each wave reinforces the attachment, keeping the person alive in your mind, even as they are absent. This is the biological core of craving, the chemical insistence that the connection is essential, vital, non-negotiable. Oxytocin, the molecule of bonding and trust, compounds the effect, released during intimacy, touch, and shared moments. Oxytocin leaves traces that are chemical bookmarks in your memory. These traces intensify longing when absence occurs. Your body remembers what it has learned to value, and in the absence of reinforcement, it signals a deficit, a loss of equilibrium. It is the brain's way of saying, this bond mattered, it is worth noticing, worth seeking. Pain and desire are intertwined. The more you remember, the more your neural circuits reinforce the importance of the missing person. From a sensory perspective, the experience is vivid. You might feel tingling, warmth, or emptiness. The body responds as if the person is still present, yet absent. Each remembered smile, each recalled word, triggers the same neural pathways that once recorded pleasure, safety, and attachment. Your attention is captured, your thoughts pulled irresistibly toward the absent figure. The mind behaves like a spotlight, illuminating moments, replaying scenarios, and keeping memory alive. This is why heartbreak can feel inescapable. The brain is chemically motivated to maintain connection even in absence, as if your survival depends on it. And the analogy deepens when we think of addiction. In substance withdrawal, the brain experiences discomfort, craving, and focused attention toward the missing chemical. In heartbreak, the missing substance is relational. The presence of the loved one, the comfort of touch, the validation of attention. Neural pathways designed to reward social connection are now engaged in loops that mimic compulsive craving. Every image, message, or memory is a trigger, each reinforcing the sense of absence and desire. The brain treats this as an urgent problem, demanding attention, engagement, and action, even if the rational mind knows there is nothing to do. Evolutionary biology provides insight into why the system is so relentless. For our ancestors, attachment was not merely emotional, it was critical for survival. Losing a partner or a social bond could mean vulnerability to danger, reduced resources, and diminished reproductive success. Neural systems evolved to treat separation as high stakes, to ensure that social bonds were maintained, and to compel behaviors that might restore connection. The intensity of craving, of attention, of physical response is an echo of this ancestral imperative, a system designed to keep humans bonded and protected. The philosophical reflection emerges here. The intensity of heartbreak is a measure of the brain's capacity for attachment. Care and depth, pain, craving, and obsession are not evidence of weakness, they are evidence of biological investment in connection. Your brain values these relationships with the same urgency it assigns to survival. The body's discomfort, the racing heartbeat, the sleepless nights, they are the language of love, encoded in chemistry and circuitry. Recognizing this transforms suffering into understanding. What feels like desperation is, at its core, the profound commitment of your body and brain to someone you value deeply. And yet this insight brings more questions. If the brain treats love like addiction, what determines whether recovery is possible? How does the system eventually recalibrate, allowing desire to fade, allowing memory to settle, and opening the body to safety and renewal? The answers lie in the interplay of attention, memory reconsolidation, and restorative processes during sleep, mechanisms that quietly begin the work of healing, even before conscious choice intervenes. As we move into the next section, we will see how the chemistry of attachment not only explains craving, but also illuminates why the very mechanisms that sustain longing are the same ones that can guide recovery. Your brain, in its relentless drive to maintain bonds, is also the instrument that eventually teaches you to let go. Think of the past as a map etched into your neural landscape, every pathway marked by moments of connection and shared experience. Evolution has equipped the human brain to value these bonds above nearly everything else. Because for our ancestors, attachment was survival. Losing a partner was not just heartbreak, it was a tangible threat. The absence of support, protection, and shared resources could mean exposure, hunger, even death. And so, the neural systems that govern attachment evolved to treat relational loss with urgency equal to physical danger. What you feel now, the ache, the craving, the obsessive thoughts, is an echo of that ancient imperative. Your brain encodes attachment using the same neurotransmitters that govern reward and reinforcement. Dopamine signals the presence of reward. Oxytocin strengthens bonds. Endorphins create a sense of comfort and safety. When the bond is threatened or broken, these systems experience a sudden withdrawal. The absence of these chemical cues triggers a state remarkably similar to withdrawal from addictive substances. Craving spike. Attention narrows. Every reminder of the person, from a message to a photograph, becomes a trigger, reigniting circuits designed to protect connection. The body is, in essence, addicted to the social reward of being known, loved, and valued. Consider the visceral sensations: a tightening in the chest, a flutter in the stomach, a subtle tension in the jaw. They are not symbolic, they are biologically grounded, emergent properties of systems that evolved to enforce attention toward attachment. The amygdala, still alert to threat, remains sensitive to signals of absence, producing stress responses that maintain hyper-awareness. Your hippocampus catalogues every fragment of the relationship: the tone of voice, the cadence of laughter, the locations where intimacy was expressed. Every detail is preserved, ensuring that the brain maintains a precise record of what was lost in case learning from the absence is necessary for future survival. At the same time, your prefrontal cortex, the seat of reasoning and planning, struggles to mediate. It observes the signals, attempts to rationalize, to remind you that the danger is not literal, that the person is gone and cannot hurt you physically. Yet reason is often overpowered by circuits honed over millennia to prioritize social survival over abstract logic. The result is a profound tension. The body insists on urgency. The mind knows the danger is symbolic, and the experience feels inescapable. The evolutionary perspective clarifies why the intensity of heartbreak can feel unrelenting. Social bonds were historically essential for protection, child rearing, and access to resources. Losing a partner or ally threatened reproductive success, nutrition, and personal safety. The neural circuitry that preserves connection is exquisitely sensitive to signals of loss, amplifying pain to compel attention and action. Even today, in modern societies where physical survival is less directly tied to attachment, these ancient circuits continue to function, creating the intense emotional and physical reactions we label as heartbreak. Philosophically, this intertwining of survival and attachment reveals a fundamental truth. Human suffering is inseparable from the depth of human care. The intensity of your response is not a flaw, but a reflection of the brain's valuation of the lost bond. Pain, craving, and obsession are markers of significance, of investment, of relational importance. The ache is proof that you are profoundly attuned, that your neural circuits committed energy and attention to another human being. Your body is validating the meaning of connection, even in its absence. And yet, these same circuits that bind attention and heighten craving are also capable of guiding recovery. While dopamine, oxytocin, and endorphins create craving and distress, they also encode learning. Your brain uses the memory of attachment to inform expectations, to guide behavior, to prepare for future connections. What feels like suffering is simultaneously a system teaching you resilience, adaptation, and the eventual capacity to form new bonds. The very machinery that enforces longing is also the machinery that will facilitate healing. Here lies the subtle paradox. The ancient mechanisms designed for survival make heartbreak feel like dying, yet they also carry the seeds of renewal. By understanding this, you begin to see that the intensity of emotional pain is not meaningless. It is the brain's way of enforcing attention, creating learning, and slowly guiding reorganization. The body and brain are in dialogue, mapping loss, marking significance, and preparing for transformation. And as we turn to the next section, we will explore the mechanisms of rumination and obsessive attention, the loops that keep memory and craving active, and discover why the brain insists on rehearsing the absence long after the initial heartbreak. These loops are not random. They are part of a deeply conserved system designed to teach, to protect, and eventually to allow adaptation. You might notice the mind wandering repeatedly to the same scenes, the same conversations, the same gestures, sometimes hours, sometimes days after the memory first strikes. This is rumination, a natural consequence of the brain's attention and reward systems remaining engaged. Imagine your neural circuits as a network of rivers and tributaries. The main current carries the memory of the person you lost, and smaller streams loop back, reinforcing the signal again and again. Each time you revisit a memory, the pathways strengthen, making the memory more vivid and more immediately accessible. The brain does this not to punish you, but to prioritize attention towards something it has deemed crucial for survival. Neuroscientists have found that the prefrontal cortex, which usually exercises control over thoughts and impulses, often struggles during heartbreak. The emotional centers, primarily the amygdala and the anterior cingulate cortex, dominate the scene. Their signals compel attention, maintaining focus on the absent person. This is why even mundane cues, a ringtone, a phrase in a song, or a passing glimpse of a shared location, can trigger sudden spikes of emotion. The circuitry responsible for reward and attachment remains active, creating a feedback loop between craving, memory, and attention. The experience can feel unrelenting, yet it is a highly adaptive process. Your brain is rehearsing lessons about social connection and attachment. Consider the analogy of a piano left untouched after a single melody has been played. Every time you strike a key, the memory of the previous tune resonates. Your brain's attention circuits are like that piano, repeatedly rehearsing the melody of attachment until the lessons are encoded and the system is prepared to adjust. Each rumination is a rehearsal, a repetition of the emotional choreography that allows you to eventually reorganize priorities, recalibrate expectations, and prepare for new social bonds. Pain is the teacher, repetition is the lesson. Sleep plays an essential role in this silent education. During sleep, the brain consolidates memories, a process that includes emotional and social learning. REM sleep, in particular, allows the integration of emotional content from the day into long-term memory networks. For Heartbreak, this means that while you rest, your brain is actively reprocessing experiences, reshaping the emotional weight of memories, and slowly reducing the intensity of raw emotional pain. Sleep is not a passive state, it is the brain's workshop for recalibration, quietly reconfiguring circuits to accommodate absence, loss, and eventual adaptation. It is here that the interplay of chemistry and timing becomes apparent. Dopamine circuits remain engaged during waking hours, producing the peaks and crashes of craving and longing. At night, during sleep, the hippocampus and prefrontal regions work together to reconsolidate memories, placing them in context, reducing emotional charge, and allowing insight to emerge. This process explains why heartbreak often feels less immediate and more tolerable after a period of rest. The brain, in its quiet wisdom, orchestrates the balance between craving and understanding, between vivid recollection and emotional integration. Philosophically, the persistence of rumination is not a flaw, but a reflection of the importance of the bond. The intensity of attention, the looping of memory, and the spikes of emotional arousal are markers of the value assigned to the relationship. What your body and mind are insisting upon is not punishment, it is significance. The ache, the obsession, and the fleeting moments of longing are the brain's way of acknowledging that a connection mattered deeply. By recognizing this, you can reframe the experience. Your suffering is evidence of your capacity to care, to love, and to form profound bonds with others. And yet, the system that enforces rumination also opens the door to adaptation. Each repetition, each memory revisited, offers the opportunity for reconsolidation. The brain can subtly alter the emotional tone of the memory, dissociate pain from absence, and integrate understanding into the neural network. Over time, the intensity of longing diminishes not because you forget, but because your brain reorganizes, adjusting the weight of memories to accommodate reality. Painful, yet instructive, this process exemplifies the remarkable plasticity of the human mind. The loops of craving, attention, and memory illustrate why heartbreak feels both endless and instructive. Your brain, ancient and sophisticated, is ensuring that you attend to social loss, that you encode lessons about attachment and survival, and that, gradually, the emotional storm gives way to clarity. And as we turn to the next section, we will explore how specific triggers, photos, messages, and reminders ignite neural spikes, reinforcing memory and craving, and how the brain slowly learns to regulate these surges without extinguishing the value of the connection entirely. You are scrolling through your phone late at night. A photo appears, a message notification lights up the screen, and suddenly your heart jumps. The body reacts before the mind can intervene. A spike of cortisol, a flutter in your chest, a subtle tightening in your stomach. These small cues, so ordinary in daily life, have become triggers for a cascade of neural activity, linking memory, attention, and craving. Your brain, trained to notice threats and rewards alike, interprets them as urgent signals. This is important, pay attention. Each signal briefly restores the presence of the absent person, and the body responds as if the reward might appear at any moment. Imagine this process as a firework display in your nervous system. The initial spark, the photo, the notification, ignites a chain of reactions. Dopamine surges, attention narrows, and neural circuits associated with reward and attachment light up. Even sensory areas, such as those that encode visual and auditory details, become more active, enhancing perception. The hippocampus, your archivist of experiences, strengthens associations between the cue and past moments of intimacy, amplifying emotional resonance. These brief, intense spikes are why certain reminders can feel almost unbearable, dragging you back into the same emotional landscape as the original memory. And yet there is subtle genius in this design. These spikes are not random, they reinforce learning. The brain is highlighting cues that are relevant for social survival. It is reminding you this connection mattered. Each neural flare is a teaching moment, a calibration of attention and desire. While the experience is uncomfortable, it is a reflection of the brain's deep concern for relationships, an echo of ancient survival imperatives. In evolutionary terms, noticing these cues increased the likelihood of repair, re-engagement, or the formation of new bonds, behaviors that enhanced safety and reproductive success. Consider how repetition shapes intensity. Each time you encounter a reminder, the pattern is reinforced. Neural circuits that encode attachment and reward strengthen with every recall, creating a loop that keeps the absent person central in your mind. This is why scrolling through old photos or rereading messages can provoke waves of emotion, sometimes hours after the initial loss. The brain's attention is designed to be persistent, ensuring that lessons about social connection are encoded deeply. It is not punishment, it is the sophisticated machinery of learning and adaptation at work. Sleep interacts with these memory spikes in profound ways. During REM cycles, the brain replays emotional experiences, integrating them into long-term memory and adjusting their emotional intensity. This reconsolidation process allows the brain to gradually reduce the raw intensity of craving and pain while preserving the significance of the connection. The spikes of longing you feel during the day become smoothed, contextualized, and integrated into a broader narrative. Your system is, silently and without your direct intervention, engaging in emotional therapy, allowing the pain to be experienced, recorded, and eventually transformed. There is also an emotional dimension to consider. Each spike, each surge of attention, carries a reminder of what mattered, of the depth of your bond, of the care and affection invested. The intensity of these moments reflects the value placed upon the connection by your brain's reward and attachment systems. They are proof, in a physiological sense, that the relationship had significance. Even the discomfort is informative. It is the brain's way of marking importance, demanding awareness, and guiding future decisions about attachment and care. Philosophically, this raises a fascinating point. The pain of reminders is inseparable from the affirmation of value. The brain cannot register significance without accompanying affect, cannot encode attachment without both reward and discomfort. Each spike is therefore not just suffering, it is evidence of the human capacity to care deeply, to invest in relationships that shape identity and emotional life. Your body insists upon attention, but in doing so it honors the depth of attachment. And as these spikes continue, as memory and craving interlace, a question arises. How does the brain eventually temper the intensity without erasing the value of the bond? How does it allow attention to fade enough for adaptation while preserving the lessons of connection? The answer lies in reconsolidation, sleep-mediated processing, and gradual neuroplastic adjustments, the hidden mechanisms that slowly teach the brain to live with absence, to transform craving into acceptance, and to prepare the mind and body for renewal. Ruminating on a lost connection is a curious and persistent phenomenon. You may notice it subtly creeping into quiet moments while washing dishes, walking down the street, or lying in bed at night. Thoughts return, uninvited but insistent, a phrase they said, a glance exchanged, a disagreement unresolved. The brain's attention circuits, particularly the default mode network, are active during these periods, sifting through memories, rehearsing scenarios, and weaving them into ongoing narratives. This is not random. Your mind is prioritizing experiences that carry emotional weight, replaying them to extract meaning and inform future social behavior. Imagine these thought loops as a path through dense forest. The first pass is faint, just a trace of a footfall, but each subsequent traversal deepens the track, making it easier to follow and harder to avoid. Neural circuits function in a similar way. Each recall strengthens synapses associated with the memory, reinforcing the connection between emotion, attention, and experience. The more often you return to the memory, the more salient it becomes, the more vivid and immediate the emotional response. Even small cues, a song lyric, a scent, a shadow of a gesture, can reignite the loop, pulling attention back to the absent person. From a neurochemical perspective, dopamine plays a key role in this process. While rumination is often accompanied by stress and negative affect, dopamine continues to signal the potential reward of social connection. Each thought of the person is a brief simulation of reunion, a momentary pulse of anticipated pleasure. The brain interprets these pulses as motivation to seek, to reconnect, or to anticipate resolution, even if rationally you know the person is gone. Your neural circuits persist in rehearsing the possibility, keeping attention and craving alive. Stress hormones compound this effect. Cortisol levels rise subtly during rumination, heightening vigilance, focusing attention, and sensitizing the body to further emotional triggers. Heart rate may accelerate, muscles may tense, and digestive discomfort may accompany prolonged reflection. The brain, in its ancient logic, treats these thoughts as crucial survival signals. Monitoring social bonds and attachment is essential, and the chemical and physiological reinforcement ensures that attention remains prioritized. In evolutionary terms, paying attention to social loss increased the likelihood of repairing bonds or avoiding further risk, mechanisms that today manifest as persistent mental loops. Philosophically, rumination is both a curse and a mirror. It can feel relentless, exhausting, and intrusive, yet it also demonstrates the depth of attachment, the brain's valuation of relationships, and the human capacity for reflection and learning. The loops themselves are evidence that the connection mattered, that the mind and body recognize significance. In this sense, rumination is not merely a symptom of suffering, it is a process of internal prioritization, a biological insistence that the experience be attended to and integrated. There is also a subtle learning mechanism embedded within these cycles. Each repetition offers an opportunity for cognitive reframing, for the brain to explore different perspectives, to simulate outcomes, and to practice emotional regulation. This is why some forms of rumination, when guided or self-reflective, can ultimately contribute to insight and adaptation. The circuits that enforce attention and reward simultaneously provide the substrate for understanding and eventual emotional recalibration. And yet, the persistence of these loops raises an important question. Why does the brain insist on repeating certain memories, even when they are painful, and offer no immediate benefit? The answer lies in the evolutionary purpose of social vigilance, the neurochemical reinforcement of attachment, and the brain's drive to extract meaning from loss. It is a process designed to ensure survival, even in the abstract sense of social and emotional well-being. As we turn to the next section, we will explore the triggers that sustain these loops in everyday life, how photos, messages, and environmental cues ignite neural spikes, and how the brain's attentional and reward systems respond. Understanding this will illuminate why the presence of reminders can feel so visceral, and why the body experiences memory as a lived sensation. You pick up your phone almost automatically, and there it is, a photo, a message, a fleeting notification. In that instant, your body reacts before your mind fully registers what has appeared. The chest tightens, the stomach knots, and a subtle wave of tension spreads across your shoulders. What seems like a simple visual or textual cue is, in fact, a potent trigger capable of activating a network of circuits in your brain that govern attention, reward, and emotional salience. Each signal briefly restores the presence of the absent person, reigniting craving and memory with startling intensity. Imagine these triggers as keys fitting into locks scattered throughout your neural architecture. A single key, a photograph of a shared moment, a song lyric, a line of text, fits precisely into the mechanism of memory and reward, unlocking cascades of neural activity. The hippocampus retrieves associated details, the tone of their voice, the curve of a smile, the warmth of a hand once held. The amygdala intensifies the emotional resonance, while the anterior cingulate cortex amplifies the sense of distress. Together, these regions orchestrate a vivid replay of attachment and loss. Your body is not merely remembering, it is reliving, with physiological fidelity, the experience of connection. Dopamine circuits, central to reward processing, respond vigorously. Each reminder is a simulated reward, a potential brief re-engagement with what was lost. The spike is immediate, compelling attention, sharpening perception, and temporarily overriding rational thought. When the reward fails to materialize, when no actual message or interaction occurs, the circuits crash, leaving you with intensified longing, sometimes bordering on pain. This cycle of anticipation and disappointment mirrors substance withdrawal. The brain's reward system treats social absence as deprivation, reinforcing craving and attentional focus. Stress hormones enhance the potency of these triggers. Cortisol subtly elevates, heightening sensitivity to both internal and external cues. Your senses are tuned more acutely. A shadow, a scent, or a sound can reignite the memory network. Each encounter, even incidental, is sufficient to reactivate the attachment circuits, ensuring that the memory remains behaviorally salient. In evolutionary terms, these responses increased the likelihood of repairing social bonds or avoiding further risk, embedding attention to relational cues deeply into neural circuitry. Consider the emotional texture of these spikes. They are often ambivalent, longing mingled with sadness, hope intertwined with despair. The body responds as though the absent person is momentarily present, and yet the mind knows the reality of absence. This dissonance creates a tension that is physically and emotionally palpable. It is a testament to the sophistication of the brain's attachment system, capable of encoding both reward and loss, presence and absence, in a seamless experiential continuum. Philosophically, these triggers reveal the profound entanglement of memory, attention, and desire. Each spike is both a reminder of what was valued and a mechanism for encoding that value. The intensity of response is not arbitrary. It is evidence of the brain's commitment to social significance. Pain and craving are not failures of regulation. They are the cost of attachment, the neurological proof that a bond mattered, that investment was real, and that your mind and body recognize the depth of the loss. Yet there is hope embedded in this system. While triggers provoke vivid emotional and physiological responses, repeated exposure under safe conditions, without re-engagement or reward, allows gradual desensitization. The brain can learn to attenuate the intensity of spikes, integrating memory with reduced emotional charge, a process facilitated by sleep and reconsolidation. Over time, what once felt overwhelming becomes manageable without erasing the significance of the bond. And here lies the next question. How does the brain balance the intensity of these neural spikes with the need for adaptation? How does it preserve the memory's significance while reducing the pain it generates? These questions point toward the processes of memory reconsolidation and sleep-dependent emotional regulation, the hidden systems that guide recovery from heartbreak. In the next section, we will explore how stress hormones prolong attention, how the body continues to react, and how these reactions can be understood as part of a sophisticated survival mechanism rather than a flaw of the mind. Stress, it turns out, is not merely a byproduct of heartbreak. It is one of its defining features. Cortisol, the hormone released in response to perceived threat, courses through your body each time a memory or reminder is activated. Heart rate rises subtly, muscles tense, and attention narrows sharply. Even in the absence of immediate danger, your body is primed as though it faces a predator. The brain interprets social loss as a survival threat, and the body obeys, signaling alertness, vigilance, and readiness to respond. This is the ancient logic of our neural circuitry. Social bonds were essential for protection, and their loss required immediate physiological attention. Picture your body as a finely tuned alarm system designed over millennia to detect threats to survival. Each spike of cortisol is a siren signaling urgency. Your chest may tighten, your stomach may churn, and subtle aches may appear in your shoulders and back. These physical responses are not symbolic. They are direct outcomes of the brain's survival strategy. The anterior cingulate cortex, together with the amygdala, amplifies the perception of threat, ensuring that attention remains fixated on the loss. Even when rational thought tells you there is no real danger, your body responds with full commitment, reflecting evolutionary priorities. The physiological effects extend beyond immediate discomfort. Cortisol affects sleep quality, mood regulation, and memory processing. Prolonged activation of stress pathways can heighten sensitivity to reminders, deepen emotional pain, and intensify rumination. Each small trigger, a social media post, a song, a fleeting scent, interacts with this heightened state, producing spikes of emotional and physiological arousal. Your body is not merely reacting, it is being sculpted by repeated engagement, reinforcing neural circuits that prioritize attention to loss and attachment. Imagine this process as a feedback loop between mind and body. A memory triggers stress. Stress enhances attention. Attention intensifies memory, and memory perpetuates the stress response. It is a closed system, finely tuned for social survival. In evolutionary terms, this loop ensured that humans remained attentive to important social relationships, motivated to repair bonds, and sensitive to potential social threats. Today, however, the loops can feel overwhelming, replaying old interactions without offering immediate solutions. The body treats absence as threat, and the mind rehearses the consequences repeatedly. Yet within this biological orchestration lies subtle wisdom. The stress response, while painful, serves a purpose. It compels attention, reinforces learning, and prioritizes reflection on relationships that are valuable to survival and well-being. Cortisol, adrenaline, and other stress hormones do not act to punish, they act to highlight significance. The intensity of bodily reaction is proportional to the importance the brain assigns to the lost connection. Pain becomes a measure, a guide, a signal that the bond was meaningful and worth encoding deeply in neural networks. Philosophically, the experience reminds us that suffering is entwined with value. The body's insistence on physiological reaction mirrors the depth of attachment, the weight of care, and the investment of attention over time. Heartache is not merely an emotional phenomenon. It is a bodily confirmation that you have loved, that you have been valued, and that the brain has recognized the significance of the social bond. Pain is the body's language of connection, a persistent messenger that signals importance through sensation. And yet the persistence of stress highlights the critical question: how does the brain eventually temper these responses without erasing the significance of the attachment? How does the body and mind move from acute vigilance to emotional regulation, from the height of physiological arousal to a state of equilibrium? These answers lie in the interplay between memory, sleep, and neuroplasticity, the mechanisms by which the brain slowly recalibrates after loss, allowing intensity to subside while retaining the lessons of attachment and the capacity for future connection. As we move into the next section, we will examine how the body itself carries the memory of heartbreak, manifesting in conditions like the broken heart syndrome, and why the visceral physical experience of loss is as real and consequential as any measurable injury. Your body remembers heartbreak in ways that are strikingly tangible. Beyond the neural loops, the stress response, and the cravings for connection, the physical body itself carries evidence of emotional trauma. Some people experience chest pain so severe it mimics a heart attack. In extreme cases, the broken heart syndrome, or stress-induced cardiomyopathy, demonstrates that emotional loss can trigger real, measurable physiological changes in the heart. The left ventricle may temporarily weaken, blood pressure may spike, and the electrocardiogram may mimic that of a heart attack, even in the absence of physical cardiac disease. This is the body's visceral affirmation that emotional pain is not abstract, it is embodied, immediate, and impactful. Imagine your heart as a sensitive instrument, finely attuned to the rhythms of attachment. When a partner is absent, the system detects imbalance, triggering physiological responses that reflect internal distress. The amygdala signals threat, the hypothalamus activates the stress axis, and catecholamines surge. The cardiovascular system reacts, muscles contract subtly, and hormonal cascades adjust metabolic priorities. The body is not lying, it experiences the social loss as though it were an actual threat to survival, because in evolutionary terms, it very well might have been. Ancient humans relied on bonds for protection, sustenance, and reproduction, and losing them could have meant real danger. Yet heartbreak is not solely a product of extreme physiology. It is also encoded in everyday bodily sensations. Tightness in the chest, knots in the stomach, tension in the shoulders, headaches, or even digestive discomfort are common manifestations. The insula, a region of the brain involved in bodily awareness, integrates these signals, producing a vivid sense that the body itself is grieving. Your nervous system communicates in a language older than words. Aches, tension, and fluctuations in heart rate are the dialects of emotional significance. These bodily sensations serve as a continuous reminder of attachment, keeping your attention tethered to the absent person. Neuroscience further illustrates how these physical experiences are intertwined with cognition and memory. Every bodily reaction reinforces neural circuits associated with the lost bond, enhancing salience and recall. Your attention narrows to cues related to the absent person, creating a loop that amplifies longing. This process explains why seeing a shared object or revisiting a familiar environment can evoke acute discomfort long after the initial loss. The body becomes a living repository of emotional memory, encoding lessons about attachment, reward, and loss with high fidelity. Philosophically, this embodied experience reminds us that human connection is never merely abstract. Love, attachment, and heartbreak are not confined to thoughts or feelings. They are inscribed in the very tissues of the body. The ache you feel is testimony to the depth of care, the investment of energy, and the evolutionary importance of social bonds. Pain validates significance. It is not incidental, but informative. The body's response to absence is the language through which biology communicates attachment, urging attention, care, and reflection. And yet, the embodied nature of heartbreak also presents a paradox. The intensity of physical reactions can overwhelm reason, create anxiety, and prolong rumination. But it is precisely this convergence of mind, memory, and body that sets the stage for eventual adaptation. By acknowledging and observing these signals, you engage the very systems that, over time, facilitate recalibration. Sleep, emotional processing, and neuroplasticity work in concert to recontextualize the memory, reduce physiological hyperarousal, and integrate the experience without erasing its significance. The question now arises: if heartbreak can manifest so strongly in the body, how does the brain and the system as a whole begin to restore equilibrium? How does the interplay of attachment, craving, and stress gradually give way to recalibration, allowing both body and mind to recover while preserving the lessons of connection? The next section will explore the quiet, restorative role of sleep and how it functions as a form of silent therapy, rebalancing circuits, reconsolidating memory, and slowly easing the ache that feels so immediate and enduring. Sleep is not merely a pause from waking life. It is a vital stage during which the brain quietly rehearses, reorganizes, and integrates experiences. When heartbreak presses on the body and mind, sleep becomes a form of silent therapy, a period in which neural circuits recalibrate, memories are reconsolidated, and emotional intensity begins to normalize. During REM sleep, in particular, the brain replays emotionally salient experiences, linking them to context and meaning. The vividness of daytime rumination is gradually tempered, allowing attachment memories to remain present without overwhelming the nervous system. Imagine your brain as an archivist working late at night, arranging volumes on endless shelves. Each memory of the lost connection, conversations, gestures, intimate moments is carefully catalogued, associated with context, and filed in a way that preserves significance while reducing the raw charge of emotion. The hippocampus and amygdala communicate closely, ensuring that emotional lessons are retained even as intensity diminishes. What once felt immediate and unmanageable begins to find its place within the broader landscape of experience. Sleep transforms raw pain into processed knowledge. This nocturnal processing also explains why dreams can feel so vivid and emotionally resonant after a breakup. Fragments of interactions, imagined reconciliations, or imagined confrontations emerge as the brain simulates social scenarios, testing outcomes and rehearsing responses. Each iteration allows circuits involved in attachment, reward, and attention to be exercised, strengthening adaptability while diminishing acute distress. In this way, dreams are not random. They are part of the brain's ongoing effort to integrate loss, to anticipate future social challenges, and to maintain internal equilibrium. Neurochemistry plays a pivotal role in this restorative process. During sleep, stress hormone levels decrease, dopamine circuits stabilize, and oxytocin may be subtly recalibrated. These shifts facilitate emotional processing, reduce hyperarousal, and promote resilience. The body, which has been on alert during waking hours, can finally relax. Heart rate steadies, muscles release tension, and the gut recovers from the physiological echoes of stress. Sleep becomes a vessel for healing, a period in which the mind and body collaborate to restore homeostasis. Philosophically, this underscores a profound truth. The brain has evolved systems that allow even the most intense emotional pain to be transformed over time. The intensity of longing, craving, and attention is not wasted. It is part of a carefully calibrated process designed to ensure learning, adaptation, and survival. Sleep serves as the quiet mediator between suffering and insight, allowing the body and mind to honor the loss while slowly preparing for life beyond it. What feels unbearable during the day is softened at night, a testament to the brain's remarkable capacity for resilience. Yet the process is not instantaneous. The first nights after heartbreak can be restless, punctuated by vivid dreams or abrupt awakenings. Each night of disrupted sleep represents both the continuation of emotional processing and the body's attempt to integrate intense experiences. Over time, as memories are reconsolidated, the loops of craving and attention gradually weaken, allowing the emotional charge to normalize. The brain is teaching the body to live with absence, transforming acute physiological and emotional reactions into managed experiences of memory and reflection. And so sleep emerges as a silent, indispensable ally in the aftermath of loss. It is the stage upon which the brain and body conduct a delicate, unobserved therapy, regulating stress, reinforcing learning, and slowly recalibrating circuits that govern attachment and craving. The ache of absence is acknowledged, experienced, and gradually integrated, setting the foundation for recovery. As we move into the next section, we will explore reconsolidation more deeply, the process by which memories are rewritten and reframed, allowing emotional intensity to diminish while preserving the lessons of attachment. This is the mechanism by which the brain begins to free you from the loops that maintain longing, and how, over time, heartbreak begins to transform from an unbearable weight into a manageable, integrated part of your inner landscape. Memory is rarely fixed. It is fluid, malleable, and endlessly revisable. In the aftermath of heartbreak, reconsolidation allows the brain to update memories of attachment, integrating new context, emotional nuance, and understanding. Every time you recall a painful memory, the words spoken, the shared laughter, the lingering touch, your brain opens a window of plasticity, a brief opportunity to adjust the emotional intensity associated with that memory. This is why reflection, journaling, and even revisiting memories without engagement can slowly reduce the raw pain of loss while preserving the significance of the connection. Imagine memory as a tapestry woven from countless threads of sensation, emotion, and context. Each recollection tugs at specific threads, loosening them, rewiring them, and weaving in new patterns. The hippocampus and amygdala communicate closely during this process, recalibrating the emotional weight while maintaining the informational content. What was once unbearably sharp begins to fade into a gentler hue. The tapestry retains its beauty and significance, but the intensity of each thread no longer dictates the rhythm of your body or mind. The process is subtle yet powerful. When you remember a moment of intimacy or shared joy, the associated emotional spike is initially high, triggering dopamine and oxytocin circuits, and sometimes a wave of cortisol as longing resurfaces. Yet, repeated mindful recollection allows the brain to integrate these memories into a broader narrative. The prefrontal cortex gradually exerts moderating influence, contextualizing the memory within a larger understanding of experience. The same circuits that once intensified longing now guide adaptation, reframing attachment without erasing its meaning. From a physiological perspective, this reconsolidation is intertwined with sleep. During nocturnal cycles, the brain rehearses memory retrieval and emotional modulation, adjusting the salience of each recalled moment. REM sleep allows the integration of emotional content into long-term storage while damping hyperactive responses. The body, which once reacted to every cue with heightened stress and arousal, now experiences a moderated response, a rebalancing that preserves learning while reducing distress. Heart rate, muscle tension, and gastrointestinal sensitivity gradually normalize. The body, like the mind, is learning to live with absence without collapsing under its weight. Philosophically, reconsolidation illustrates the profound adaptability of human experience. Memories of attachment are not erased, and the emotional lessons they carry are not discarded. Instead, the mind and body collaborate to integrate these memories in ways that maintain their significance while diminishing their intensity. Pain transforms into insight. Longing evolves into reflection. What once felt like an unending loop of suffering becomes a nuanced understanding of connection, loss, and personal growth. The memory of love remains, but the body no longer trembles with every recollection. Consider the implication. The same neural systems that enforce craving, maintain attention, and heighten emotional response are the systems that allow adaptation and resilience. Heartbreak, in its intensity, engages the brain's most sophisticated circuits for learning, survival, and social navigation. Reconsolidation is the bridge between suffering and understanding, between acute emotional pain and the capacity to integrate experience into the broader narrative of life. The brain teaches the body and mind to honor attachment without remaining captive to it. And yet, even with reconsolidation, the question remains: why does time feel distorted during heartbreak? Why does every moment seem elongated? And why do brief memories carry disproportionate weight? The answer lies in the interplay between dopamine, attention, and the perception of reward, mechanisms we will explore in the next section. These circuits not only maintain the salience of attachment, but also shape the subjective experience of time, amplifying the sensation of loss, while providing the framework for eventual healing. Time itself becomes malleable in the aftermath of heartbreak. Minutes stretch into hours, hours into days, and each memory or reminder can feel endlessly prolonged. The brain's dopamine circuits, intimately involved in attention, reward, and motivation, play a central role in this distortion. Dopamine signals are closely tied to anticipation and craving. When a reward, such as connection with a loved one, is absent, these circuits create a sense of temporal elongation. Each moment of waiting, each unreceived message, each unanswered thought seems amplified, dragging the present into a slow, almost unbearable continuum. Imagine standing in a dimly lit hallway, watching a door that remains closed. Time slows with every passing second. The hallway is your perception. The door is the absence of the person, and each heartbeat reverberates through your body like a drum, marking every elongated moment. Your neural circuits are tuned to the significance of the missing presence. The subjective stretching of time reflects the brain's allocation of attention toward what it considers crucial for survival and well-being. Loss, after all, was historically urgent. A missing bond could mean vulnerability, and the brain treats it accordingly. Dopamine's role in this experience is paradoxical. While it is commonly associated with pleasure and reward, its absence is equally potent. The lack of anticipated social reward triggers heightened attention and a sense of urgency. The brain's internal clocks recalibrate, prioritizing the absence as a salient signal. Every memory, every flash of longing is amplified temporally because the system is tuned to minimize the risk of ignoring a vital social connection. In essence, time stretches as the brain insists that the absent person must not be forgotten or overlooked. Simultaneously, the body mirrors this distortion. Cortisol levels rise subtly, maintaining vigilance. The heart beats with uneven rhythm. Muscles remain slightly tense, and the stomach churns. Sensory perception sharpens in response to small environmental cues. A notification sound, a shadow, a familiar scent, each capable of reigniting attention and emotional response. The combined effects of dopamine-driven anticipation, stress hormone signaling, and heightened attention circuits create the subjective experience of prolonged, intense emotional time. A single memory can dominate consciousness for hours, days, or longer as the brain's attention loops insist on prioritizing significance. Philosophically, this distortion of time reveals the depth of human attachment. When the brain slows the subjective passage of moments, it underscores the importance of the bond and the survival value historically associated with it. The body and mind insist on prolonged attention because the relationship mattered. The stretching of experience is not arbitrary. It is a reflection of investment, care, and the evolutionary significance of social connection. In this sense, heartbreak transforms perception itself, aligning time with attachment and loss. And yet, the mechanisms that prolong experience also provide the foundation for recovery. Through repeated memory, reconsolidation, attention recalibration, and sleep-mediated emotional processing, the brain gradually adjusts temporal perception. What once felt endless begins to condense. The intensity of each moment diminishes, and the body slowly learns that survival does not depend on immediate restoration of the bond. Dopamine circuits stabilize, stress responses normalize, and the brain integrates memory and experience into a balanced temporal framework. Time, once stretched by longing, eventually resumes a rhythm aligned with adaptation and resilience. As we move to the next section, we will explore mirror neurons and their role in amplifying longing. The way your brain re-experiences gestures, expressions, and cues associated with the absent person, reinforcing both craving and learning. These systems further explain why social absence is profoundly felt and why recovery requires the careful recalibration of both memory and embodied response. Mirror neurons, a remarkable system within the brain, allow you to internally simulate the actions and emotions of others. When you recall your former partner, your mind does more than remember static images. It replays gestures, expressions, and movements as if you were witnessing them in real time. The neurons that once fired when observing their actions now activate during memory recall, producing subtle embodied experiences. The curve of a smile, the tilt of a head, the rhythm of a laugh. Your brain reconstructs their presence internally, and the body responds accordingly, producing sensations that mirror actual interaction. Imagine standing in a room with an invisible companion. Their laughter seems to echo in the corners. Their gestures replay in subtle, almost imperceptible movements of your own body. Your nervous system responds as though they were physically present. Heart rate, muscle tension, and even respiration patterns may fluctuate, echoing the simulated social interaction. The brain does not merely remember, it relives, engaging attention, emotion, and reward circuits simultaneously. Each recollection becomes a rehearsal, a pulse of connection that persists despite physical absence. This simulation has profound implications for craving and longing. Mirror neuron activation reinforces emotional salience, maintaining the intensity of attachment. When a memory triggers internal rehearsal, dopamine circuits respond with brief anticipatory reward signals, and oxytocin traces echo, reinforcing the sense of relational craving. The loop is self-perpetuating. Memory triggers simulation. Simulation triggers emotional and physiological response, and response reinforces memory. Over time, this mechanism ensures that the absent person remains central in consciousness, maintaining attention and emotional investment even when the relationship has ended. Neuroscientific studies show that mirror neurons are intimately involved in empathy, social understanding, and learning through observation. In Heartbreak, these same systems contribute to the vividness of memory, the intensity of longing, and the embodied experience of absence. They allow the brain to reconstruct another person's presence without physical interaction, sustaining both emotional connection. This is why brief reminders, a photograph, a familiar gesture, a favorite song, can provoke waves of emotion that feel almost tangible. The brain is simulating presence, and the body responds accordingly. Philosophically, this insight deepens our understanding of attachment. The brain is not a passive observer of memory. It is an active participant, re-experiencing relational dynamics through embodied simulation. Each surge of longing, each visceral response, reflects the significance of the bond and the sophistication of neural circuits designed to maintain social connection. Heartbreak is not merely emotional. It is an interplay of memory, body, and the subtle simulations of presence, demonstrating the remarkable interconnectedness of human experience. Yet this system also offers a path toward adaptation. By observing these simulations without acting on them, by recognizing internal responses without external engagement, you engage cognitive and prefrontal circuits that gradually modulate intensity. Over time, the vividness of simulation diminishes, emotional spikes become manageable, and embodied responses normalize. The same neural system that maintains longing also provides the substrate for recovery, allowing memory to remain without sustaining unrelenting craving. As we transition into the next section, we will explore why social bonds matter so deeply, the ancient mechanisms that treat social isolation as existential threat, and the ways in which the brain's valuation of connection shapes both suffering and adaptation. Understanding this context illuminates why heartbreak feels so profound, and why the pathways toward resilience are embedded in the very circuits that enforce attachment. Social bonds are not optional embellishments of human experience. They are central to survival. From the perspective of evolution, humans are fundamentally social creatures. Our brains evolved in communities where isolation could mean vulnerability to predators, scarcity of food, and reduced reproductive success. Every social connection, every bond, carried life or death significance. This deep wiring persists in the modern brain. Losing a close partner or ally activates the same survival circuits as physical threats, signaling danger and demanding attention. Heartbreak is felt so acutely because your nervous system interprets social absence as a signal of existential risk. Imagine your mind as a network of watchtowers, each scanning the landscape for signs of connection or threat. When a bond is broken, alarms light up across these towers. The amygdala heightens vigilance, the anterior cingulate cortex signals distress, and the hypothalamus activates the stress axis. Your body becomes attuned to cues that might indicate risk or opportunity for repair. A message, a familiar gesture, a shared location. Attention narrows, physiological arousal increases, and even subtle environmental signals can evoke strong responses. The loss of connection is, in essence, processed as a survival priority by the brain's ancient systems. Neuroscience reinforces this perspective. Functional imaging studies reveal that social exclusion, rejection, or abandonment activates brain regions overlapping with those responsive to physical pain. The overlap is not accidental. These neural pathways evolve to ensure survival by enforcing awareness of threats to social cohesion. Cortisol and other stress hormones surge, increasing vigilance and physiological preparedness. Dopamine and oxytocin circuits, which encode reward and attachment, simultaneously maintain craving and focus on the absent individual. In combination, these systems make social loss feel urgent, unavoidable, and deeply embodied. From a philosophical standpoint, this highlights the depth of human interdependence. Attachment is not merely emotional, it is foundational to our existence. The intensity of heartbreak reflects the value assigned by the brain to relational bonds. Pain is the currency of significance. When circuits designed for survival are engaged by social loss, the body insists on attention and reflection, amplifying both emotional experience and physiological response. The ache in the chest, the tension in the stomach, the racing heartbeat, they are not accidents. They are evidence that the bond mattered deeply. At the same time, understanding these mechanisms opens the door to perspective and adaptation. Recognizing that the body treats social loss as existential threat helps frame emotional intensity as meaningful rather than pathological. The systems that heighten pain and attention are also capable of facilitating recovery. Neuroplasticity allows circuits to gradually recalibrate, stress responses to normalize, and attention to broaden beyond the absent individual. The same vigilance that once maintained connection becomes a tool for reflection and growth, guiding adaptation without erasing the significance of the bond. Moreover, social cognition, the ability to simulate the thoughts, feelings, and intentions of others, continues to influence recovery. Mirror neuron systems, empathy circuits, and attention networks collectively reinforce memory, craving, and learning. Yet, with time and conscious awareness, these same systems can support emotional regulation. By observing responses without engagement, the mind slowly disentangles attachment from acute distress. The brain is simultaneously holding significance and shaping resilience, teaching the body that survival and adaptation are possible, even in the face of loss. And here is the essential insight. Heartbreak is profound because social bonds are profound. The body, brain, and mind have evolved to prioritize relational survival with the same urgency as physical survival. Pain, craving, and physiological reaction are not errors. They are testament to human interdependence, evolutionary wisdom, and the deep value of connection. As we move into the next section, we will examine how trust, betrayal, and the amygdala intersect, revealing why heartbreak affects not just attachment, but also the fundamental neural processes of evaluating safety, reliability, and emotional risk. Trust is fragile, yet fundamental. When a bond is broken, whether through betrayal, separation, or loss, the amygdala, your brain's sentinel of threat and safety, springs into heightened activity. This small almond-shaped structure evaluates risk, encodes emotional salience, and orchestrates the body's response to potential danger. In heartbreak, the amygdala responds not only to the absence of a loved one, but to the ambiguity of trust. Was the loss inevitable? Was it avoidable? Was it a form of betrayal? Every question triggers neural circuits associated with vigilance, emotional arousal, and physiological preparation, intensifying the experience of heartbreak. Imagine standing at the edge of a cliff. You cannot see the bottom, but the wind shifts unpredictably, and every sound is amplified. That cliff is the space of broken trust. Your mind scans for cues, weighing danger and reward, imagining consequences, and rehearsing outcomes. The amygdala interprets these signals as urgent, something critical is at stake, and immediate attention is required. Cortisol surges, muscles tense, and heart rate adjusts, all signs that your body is prepared for confrontation, avoidance, or repair. The nervous system treats the uncertainty of trust as a survival issue. The interplay between trust and attachment is deeply entwined. Neurotransmitters like oxytocin, which once reinforced bonding and safety, now fluctuate in response to absence, enhancing both craving and vigilance. The prefrontal cortex attempts to mediate, It evaluates the situation, interprets context, and considers strategy. Yet, in the immediacy of emotional response, reason is often outpaced by the signals of threat and loss. Your mind oscillates between longing and caution, desire and doubt, replaying scenarios and testing hypotheses about loyalty, reliability, and potential reconnection. Physiologically, this manifests in heightened awareness and sensitivity. Breathing may become shallow, muscles subtly contract, and even minor environmental cues, tone of voice, facial expression, a gesture, trigger spikes of neural and hormonal activity. These responses reflect the brain's adaptive strategy, maintaining hypervigilance to ensure that you can respond effectively to social risk. While it can feel overwhelming, the intensity is a measure of the significance the brain assigns to relational safety and trust. Every bodily reaction is a signal, encoding importance and preserving learning. Philosophically, the activation of trust circuits during heartbreak highlights the intertwining of vulnerability and attachment. To care deeply is to risk exposure. To invest in a bond is to invite potential loss. The pain of broken trust is inseparable from the depth of investment. Your nervous system does not merely register absence, it encodes significance, threat, and opportunity for growth. The physiological and emotional intensity reflects both the brain's evolutionary priorities and the human capacity for profound attachment. Yet, within this system lies the potential for adaptation. Neuroplasticity allows the brain to recalibrate trust circuits gradually, integrating lessons learned from loss. Repeated exposure to safe, non-threatening social interactions can re-establish equilibrium in oxytocin and dopamine pathways. The prefrontal cortex strengthens its regulatory role, mitigating hypervigilance and enabling reflection rather than reactivity. In essence, the same circuits that amplify pain and vigilance can, over time, guide recovery, supporting both emotional resilience and future relational engagement. As we move into the next section, we will examine the role of the prefrontal cortex, the reframe center, in making sense of heartbreak. We will explore how this region of the brain helps integrate emotional intensity, regulate attention, and craft a narrative that allows learning and adaptation to emerge from the raw chaos of loss. This is where the mind begins to translate suffering into understanding. The prefrontal cortex, located just behind your forehead, acts as the brain's executive center, orchestrating reasoning, reflection, and long-term planning. During heartbreak, this region attempts to impose order on the emotional turbulence generated by the amygdala, anterior cingulate cortex, and reward circuits. It is the part of the brain that asks, what does this loss mean? How can I make sense of it? Can I find safety, understanding, or growth in the absence? While the emotional centers react immediately and intensely, the prefrontal cortex works more slowly, striving to integrate experience into a coherent narrative. Imagine your mind as a vast storm-tossed sea. Waves of longing, craving, and physiological response crash relentlessly. The prefrontal cortex is a lighthouse perched on a distant cliff, casting light across the turmoil, offering perspective and orientation. It cannot stop the storm, but it can guide attention, helping you navigate through the chaos rather than being swept away. By reframing memories, evaluating emotional significance, and contextualizing pain, this region provides a bridge between intense experience and adaptive understanding. Neuroscientific research shows that the prefrontal cortex is intimately involved in emotion regulation, decision-making, and cognitive appraisal. During heartbreak, it attempts to modulate the signals from the amygdala, tempering distress and helping the individual consider the broader context. For example, it may remind you that the absence, while painful, does not constitute existential threat, that the neural circuits driving craving and rumination are part of an adaptive system, or that your experiences provide lessons for future relationships. This reflective capacity allows emotional intensity to be integrated without overwhelming the system. From a physiological standpoint, the prefrontal cortex exerts influence over stress and reward circuits, gradually moderating cortisol, dopamine, and oxytocin responses. While emotional spikes may still occur, this region can help contain their magnitude, reduce impulsive rumination, and support behavioral adaptation. It is the brain's way of translating visceral sensation into structured understanding, bridging the gap between raw experience and conscious insight. Over time, repeated engagement of this region contributes to resilience, recalibration, and recovery. Philosophically, the prefrontal reframe highlights the human capacity to impose meaning on suffering. While the body reacts automatically and the mind ruminates compulsively, the prefrontal cortex allows you to observe, interpret, and integrate the experience. Pain is acknowledged, attachment is honored, but suffering becomes informative rather than purely destructive. This capacity for reflection, reasoning, and reframing underscores the depth of human cognition. The brain is not merely reactive, it is capable of transforming intensity into insight, chaos into narrative, and loss into learning. Yet, the effectiveness of the prefrontal cortex is gradual and requires engagement. Emotional intensity often overwhelms reason initially, and reflection may be fleeting. The region functions best when the body's stress responses are modulated, attention is focused, and memory reconsolidation has begun. Through practice, mindful reflection, journaling, and gradual exposure to triggers, this area strengthens its regulatory capacity, helping the brain integrate attachment memories with diminished emotional charge. Recovery, in this sense, is not the erasure of memory, but the harmonization of mind, body, and emotion. As we move into the next section, we will explore the broader concept of neuroplasticity after heartbreak, how the brain reorganizes its circuits, reshaping attention, reward, and emotional pathways to accommodate absence, preserve significance, and gradually restore equilibrium. Here, the architecture of adaptation begins to reveal itself, showing how suffering is translated into resilience. Neuroplasticity is the brain's remarkable ability to reorganize itself, forming new connections while adjusting the strength of existing circuits. In the wake of heartbreak, neuroplasticity becomes essential. The intense activation of attachment, reward, and stress circuits has reshaped your neural landscape, embedding the memory of the absent person deeply into your attention, emotion, and bodily responses. Neuroplasticity allows this landscape to be gradually remodeled. Circuits that once amplified craving and pain are recalibrated, attention loops are loosened, and emotional intensity is moderated without erasing the significance of the bond. Imagine your brain as a forest, dense with pathways forged by repeated experiences. Each memory of connection, each spike of longing, has carved a trail. Neuroplasticity allows the forest to grow new paths, to reroute attention, and to reshape old trails. Over time, the pathways that once directed relentless focus toward absence begin to share space with new networks, reflective thought, adaptive planning, and emotional resilience. The vivid intensity of early heartbreak softens as the brain integrates the experience into a broader, more flexible mental map. Physiologically, neuroplasticity is supported by sleep, memory reconsolidation, and a moderation of stress and reward systems. As cortisol levels stabilize, the prefrontal cortex gains greater influence over emotional circuits, guiding attention away from compulsive rumination. Dopamine pathways, previously dominated by craving, gradually recalibrate, allowing reward to be experienced more evenly across multiple sources rather than being narrowly tethered to a single absent individual. Oxytocin and other social bonding molecules support the formation of new connections, reinforcing resilience and adaptive behaviors. The body learns, slowly, that survival does not depend on immediate reunion, and that attachment can be both meaningful and manageable. From a philosophical perspective, neuroplasticity underscores the brain's capacity for transformation. Pain is not permanent, attention is not fixed, longing is not unalterable. The same neural systems that once sustained obsessive focus and craving can, over time, be harnessed to support understanding, reflection, and emotional growth. Heartbreak is not merely a destructive force, it is also a catalyst for reorganization, teaching the mind and body how to adapt to change while honoring the significance of attachment. This process, however, is gradual. The intensity of early loss may persist for days, weeks, or months, as neural circuits reinforce patterns and recalibrate slowly. Recovery does not require forgetting or erasing. It requires the integration of experience, the formation of new connections, and the careful modulation of attention and emotional intensity. Each small shift in neural wiring represents a step toward equilibrium, a movement from chaos to balance, from relentless longing to reflective insight. Neuroplasticity also provides a framework for hope. It explains why, despite the intensity of heartbreak, individuals eventually regain stability, find meaning, and re-engage with life and social connection. The same mechanisms that created deep suffering also allow the system to heal, demonstrating that the human brain is both sensitive and resilient. The architecture of adaptation is built into the very circuits that once held you captive to absence. And as we move to the next section, we will explore the small sparks of reward, the fleeting moments of pleasure, relief, or comfort that guide recovery. These micro-moments illustrate how the brain, in its intricate design, gradually teaches the mind and body to find equilibrium, to integrate memory with well-being, and to transform the ache of loss into the foundation for renewal. Even amidst the intensity of heartbreak, small sparks of reward begin to emerge, fleeting moments that remind the brain of pleasure, possibility, and adaptation. A smile from a friend, the warmth of sunlight on your skin, the taste of a favorite meal, or the laughter of someone nearby can briefly activate dopamine circuits, offering a microburst of relief and signaling that life contains sources of reward beyond the absent person. These moments are subtle, often fleeting, but they are powerful. They provide evidence that the brain can recalibrate, that attention can shift, and that emotional intensity can be modulated. Imagine walking through a dense forest where the path of loss feels endless. Suddenly a small stream appears, its water sparkling in the sunlight. This stream is a micro-reward, a momentary pause in emotional intensity, a reminder that the world contains nourishment, pleasure, and beauty. Each spark signals the brain that survival and well-being are possible even without the lost bond. Physiologically, dopamine surges in response to these cues, activating reward circuits and producing subtle shifts in attention and mood. The body responds with slight relaxation, a gentler heartbeat, and a fleeting sense of comfort. Neuroscientifically, these micro-moments serve as reinforcement for adaptive behavior. The brain learns to associate new sources of pleasure with attention and engagement, gradually redirecting focus from the absent individual to broader experiences. Over time, the repeated experience of small rewards reshapes neural circuits, reinforcing patterns of adaptive attention and emotional regulation. The system that once prioritized craving and attachment begins to balance, allowing new connections, insights, and experiences to gain salience. Recovery is not an abrupt shift. It is a gradual accumulation of these micro-reinforcements, guiding attention and affect toward equilibrium. Philosophically, the emergence of these sparks illustrates the brain's inherent capacity for resilience. Even in the throes of profound loss, life continues to offer moments of beauty, connection, and insight. The brain's reward systems are attuned to notice and amplify these experiences, ensuring that attention does not remain trapped in loops of longing and distress. Each spark is a reminder that the nervous system is capable of recalibration, that suffering is not permanent, and that adaptation is a natural and inevitable outcome of neuroplasticity. Moreover, these small bursts of reward interact with memory and reconsolidation. Positive experiences, however brief, provide contrast to the intensity of past attachment, allowing the brain to recontextualize memories. Dopamine and oxytocin pathways integrate these experiences, subtly reducing craving and emotional reactivity while preserving the lessons of attachment. Over time, these micro-moments accumulate, producing a cumulative effect that gradually reshapes perception, emotion, and physiological response. The intensity of heartbreak is balanced by the emergence of reward, guiding adaptation without erasing significance. The body too participates in this process. Heart rate variability increases, muscles relax, and cortisol levels gradually normalize. The physiological storm that once accompanied memories of absence diminishes in frequency and intensity, leaving space for reflection, creativity, and engagement with life beyond the lost bond. Each spark of reward is a gentle nudge, encouraging the mind and body to notice what is safe, enjoyable, and sustaining. And as we move into the next section, we will explore how resilience is wired into the brain, the intrinsic circuits and adaptive mechanisms that allow humans to reorganize after loss, preserve memory, and re-establish equilibrium. Here, the process of heartbreak transforms from suffering into an opportunity for growth, teaching the mind and body how to navigate absence while honoring attachment. Resilience is not merely a psychological concept. It is embedded in the brain's architecture. Neural circuits that once amplified pain, craving, and vigilance now provide the scaffolding for recovery. The prefrontal cortex, hippocampus, and amygdala collaborate to integrate experience, modulate emotion, and guide adaptive behavior. Neuroplasticity allows these regions to recalibrate, adjusting the intensity of responses to memory, attachment, and stress. In essence, the very systems that created profound suffering also hold the mechanisms for healing and adaptation. Imagine your mind as a city that has endured a storm. Streets once flooded with unrelenting emotion are gradually cleared, bridges between regions are reinforced, and new pathways open. The city is not identical to its former state, but it is functional, resilient, and capable of movement. Every micro-moment of reward, every reflection during sleep, and every recalibrated neural connection contributes to rebuilding the city, allowing attention, emotion, and bodily response to regain balance. Recovery is a dynamic process, requiring time, repeated experience, and the brain's inherent capacity for adaptation. Physiologically, resilience manifests in subtle yet measurable ways. Heart rate variability increases, indicating improved regulation of the autonomic nervous system. Stress hormone levels stabilize, reducing hyperarousal and the intensity of physiological pain. Dopamine and oxytocin circuits begin to operate in a broader context, allowing reward and attachment systems to respond to multiple sources rather than being narrowly tethered to the absent individual. The body learns that survival and well-being are possible without the constant reinforcement of a single bond. Neuroscientists note that resilience is not uniform. It is shaped by prior experiences, genetic predisposition, and environmental factors. However, the fundamental architecture for recovery exists in every human brain. Neural circuits designed to encode attachment, reward, and stress are inherently adaptable. With time, attention loops weaken, emotional spikes diminish, and the brain integrates the significance of loss into a coherent framework. Memory retains value without producing debilitating craving or pain. Philosophically, this demonstrates the profound capacity of the human mind to endure, adapt, and grow. The circuits that once caused suffering also carry the potential for insight, learning, and emotional growth. Heartbreak, while deeply painful, is a testament to the significance of attachment and to the brain's evolutionary wisdom. It teaches the importance of bonds, while simultaneously equipping the system for recovery. The ache of loss becomes a teacher, guiding attention, shaping behavior, and reinforcing the capacity for future connection. Resilience is further reinforced by conscious engagement. Reflection, mindfulness, journaling, and social support all contribute to the recalibration of circuits, facilitating integration of emotional experience and physiological regulation. Each adaptive behavior signals the brain that recovery is possible, and with repetition, neural pathways adjust, embedding stability into the system. The combination of neuroplasticity, sleep-mediated reconsolidation, and mindful engagement creates a foundation for both healing and growth. And as we move into the final section, we will explore the transformation from feeling as if you are dying to experiencing reorganization, the moment when the intensity of heartbreak softens, the body relaxes, and the mind integrates absence with understanding. This is where the journey of heartbreak completes its arc, revealing not only suffering, but also the remarkable adaptability and resilience of the human brain. At last we arrive at the threshold where heartbreak begins to transform into reorganization. The body, which once trembled with intensity, gradually learns to relax. Heart rate steadies, muscles release persistent tension, and stress hormones normalize. The amygdala, once hypervigilant to absence, now signals with less urgency, allowing the prefrontal cortex to guide attention, integrate memory, and reframe experience. Sleep, reconsolidation, and neuroplasticity converge, providing the subtle but powerful processes through which the mind and body adapt to loss without erasing the significance of attachment. Imagine the mind as a river, once swollen and turbulent with emotion, now finding calmer channels. The currents of craving, longing, and physiological arousal are still present, but they move with a steadier rhythm. Memories remain vivid, yet integrated. Reminders are less overwhelming, and attention gradually broadens beyond the absent individual. The brain has not forgotten, nor has it denied significance. Instead, it has reorganized, creating new pathways for thought, emotion, and behavior. What once felt like dying now becomes a narrative of adaptation, resilience, and subtle growth. Physiologically, the body reflects this transformation. Heart rate variability increases, indicating improved autonomic regulation. Cortisol and adrenaline levels stabilize, reducing hyperarousal. Neurotransmitter systems, including dopamine and oxytocin circuits, recalibrate, allowing reward and attachment systems to respond to broader life experiences rather than being narrowly focused on a single source. The body learns that survival and well-being are possible without constant reinforcement of the lost bond, and the physical ache of absence diminishes in intensity. Neuroscience provides insight into this process through repeated cycles of memory retrieval, emotional engagement, and sleep-mediated consolidation. Neural circuits adjust. The hippocampus integrates memory with context, the prefrontal cortex strengthens regulation, and the amygdala's signals of threat gradually weaken. The brain's plasticity ensures that attachment memories are preserved without generating paralyzing craving or pain. In this way, heartbreak is transformed. The intensity of early experience gives way to reflection, insight, and adaptability. Philosophically, this stage represents the reconciliation of experience and understanding. What felt like existential threat, the sensation of dying from loss, is now seen as a vital signal of care, attachment, and significance. The pain has not been erased, it has been integrated. Each spike of longing, each memory, each physiological echo is honored, yet the body and mind are no longer captive to them. Heartbreak becomes a teacher, offering insight into the nature of attachment, resilience, and human interdependence. Recovery is reinforced by engagement with life. Moments of reward, social support, reflection, and mindful attention contribute to the continued recalibration of neural circuits. Neuroplasticity ensures that the brain remains adaptable, capable of forming new bonds, and resilient in the face of future loss. What was once a source of unrelenting suffering now becomes a foundation for growth, understanding, and the capacity to navigate life with both openness and wisdom. And so from the raw intensity of craving, stress, and longing emerges a system that has learned to honor attachment while maintaining equilibrium. The ache of absence softens, attention broadens, and the mind integrates experience into a coherent, reflective narrative. The journey from feeling as if you are dying to experiencing reorganization reveals the profound adaptability of the human brain. Heartbreak, in all its intensity, is both a reflection of care and a path toward resilience, insight, and emotional maturity.